Hello there, and welcome to this video in which we are looking at Azure Synapse Analytics, but we're also looking at Dynamics, and specifically Dynamics 365 Sales. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to have a little look at Dynamics 365 Sales, just a couple of screens, and then we're going to set up Azure Synapse Link for the Dataverse, which underpins the data in Dynamics 365 Sales. And we're going to synchronize the Dynamics data into Azure Synapse Analytics. And the reason that you'll want to do this is reporting directly from Dynamics is usually not a recommended practice. And being able to synchronize and offload that data to another analytical service like Synapse is preferred. Now, of course, we can use Synapse Link, which is inbuilt functionality within Dynamics and within the Dataverse to be able to synchronize that data with Synapse itself. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. So what we'll do is, you can see that I've got Synapse Analytics open at the moment. One of the things that I'd like to call out is a blog post on my blog, so serverlesssql.com. The link to the blog is in the description of the video, and this takes you through everything we'll do in this video and more. So there'll be in this blog some requirements, including permissions, and it'll take you through how to create a Dynamics 365 Sales trial if you're looking to get started with Synapse Link and understand how Dynamics works with it. So I just wanted to call that out at the beginning. Now, I have a Dynamics 365 Sales trial up and running. This is all the default data that you get with that trial. You are able to go in and change data and add data, which is what we'll see after we set up the Synapse Link to see the data being synchronized. But I just wanted to show you the basic dashboard of Dynamics 365 Sales. We've got our leads, so I'll just click on that. We have opportunities, contacts, and accounts. Yeah, so some basic information within Dynamics 365. So I'm going to click on contacts because we'll come back to contacts and amend and add some data later on. If I go into Synapse, so I've already got a Synapse workspace created. This is a totally new Synapse workspace. It doesn't have anything in it. So if I look at the workspace data itself, we don't have any databases. We just have the default Lake database. Now, when we configure that Synapse Link, we should see a Dynamics Lake database appear here with the ID of the environment. So we'll check back after we've done the synchronization. Now, the Synapse Link itself is done via Power Apps. So if you go to make.powerapps.com, log in, and in the top right, we've got environment. So for this example, I've got my sales trial environment. So I need to make sure that that is selected. And then on the left-hand side, I've got this Dataverse drop-down. And I can see the tables in my Dataverse. One of those things that I can do is click on Azure Synapse Link. And what this allows me to do, it allows me to create a link, not just to Synapse. If I just wanted to synchronize the data with Azure Data Lake Gen 2, I can do that. I don't need the Synapse component. However, I can also configure it to synchronize with Synapse. The reason that we want to synchronize it with Synapse is because it also creates the tables within Synapse as well, with the column definitions, with the data types, and also some useful metadata, which we'll look at as well after we've configured the synchronization. So what I'll do is I'll create a new link, and I'm going to connect to an Azure Synapse workspace. I'll select my subscription, so in my Azure subscription. We're going to select the resource group that my destination Synapse workspace is in, which is in my Dynamics 365 resource group, and it's already picked up the workspace for Synapse and the storage account that the data from the Dataverse from Dynamics will be synchronized to. So I'm going to click Next. And now I can add the tables that I would like to synchronize. Now, recommended practices is start with a few tables. Once those tables have been synchronized, you can always come back to Synapse Link and add more tables. Now I'm going to add the account table. I'm going to start to search and look for contact. I'll also look for opportunity. Okay. So I'm just going to pick just 2 or 3 tables because we're going to get the mechanics of the synchronization working in this video, and then in a later video we'll look at the actual data itself and also a great Power BI example report from Scott Sewell of Microsoft. Also, we won't look at the advanced features for now in the tables, but what I'd like to do is just show those advanced settings, okay? What I'm able to do is I'm able to set a couple of options in the advanced settings. One of those is append only. Now what that means is if there's any data that gets deleted from Dynamics, when the synchronization happens, it's not going to be deleted from the data lake, from Synapse. It will be marked as a status of deleted. So if you need to make sure that nothing gets deleted in your destination sync store, then click append only. And then we've got partition, okay? So the way that the data in the destination is partitioned. But I'm going to leave those advanced configuration settings for the moment. So we've got our 3 tables selected, and I'm going to save those. Now up in the top left, we can see that we've got some options, some statuses rather. And what the Synapse Link is doing is it's connecting to the Azure storage account, and it's adding some permissions to that storage account. So my account that I've logged into Power Apps with needs to have certain permissions on the data lake and in the Synapse workspace. All those permissions are outlined in the blog. And then through the process of setting up the link, it's going to add some extra permissions from the Dynamics environment into the storage account to allow the automated synchronization. So what we'll do is we'll wait a couple of minutes to configure the Synapse Link. We'll probably jump cut to this. And now our Synapse Link has been configured. So it took about a minute to set up the Synapse Link. And what we can do is we can click into the link itself to see some details. So we've got the tables themselves and the sync status, how many rows are being affected by that synchronization. So at the moment, you can see that the sync status for the 3 tables, we've got account and opportunity, initial sync post-processing, and contact is queued. So we're just going to leave it here and wait until we've got a sync status of active on all those 3 tables. Okay, so I've hit refresh in the top left, and now we can see sync status active for the 3 tables that I initially configured. Now I said previously that we can start with a few tables and we can add some more as we go along. What we can do is in the Synapse Link that we've set up, we've got the Manage Tables option in the top. We can click that. We can find the table that we need to add. Click Save. That table will initialize and we should show as active once it's synchronized over to the data lake and to Synapse. So this is where we go to Power Apps to set up the Synapse link, also to administrate the link, to add new tables. We can see some details about the destination for the Synapse link, and the Discover Hub is just what we can do with that Synapse link. We are concentrating on Azure Synapse at the moment. So after this is done, well, actually, we've got these little links that we can click on and go to the data lake or go to the Synapse workspace. We've already got the Synapse workspace open, so I'm going to click on the Synapse workspace, and there we go. We can see that the Dataverse Lake Database has been set up. Okay, so that's one thing to note. It's not a serverless SQL pools database. It's not a dedicated SQL pool. It's a lake database. So if we expand that, we can have a look at the tables. Now we've got our account table, contact, and opportunity. What you'll also see is this underscore partitioned. So the differences are that the partitioned table, they're synchronized on a less frequent basis than the regular named tables. Those regular named tables are what Microsoft have termed near real time, as in when changes are made to Dynamics, those changes are pushed via the Synapse Link process into the data lake and visible via Synapse, and we can query using SQL, which we'll just see. But the partition ones are less frequent. Reason for that is you may encounter some blocking as data is being written to the near real time. At the moment, the Synapse Link supports exporting to CSV. Parquet is coming, but there are some file locking behaviors essentially. Just like a regular database. So when data is being written to those CSV files, there might be a clash when you come in and try and read. The account partitioned, that's on a less frequent synchronization, so locking is less likely. What I want to look at first is actually the table metadata, because that's quite interesting. So if we have a look at develop, and I've got a couple of SQL scripts that I've already created on the metadata. So what I'll do is I've selected my built-in service, which is it's the serverless SQL pools service, and I can select the lake database because I can query lake databases using the serverless SQL pools service. So if I have a look at the external tables, we'll see a list of tables that have been synchronized to serverless. So we can see our account table, contact table, and opportunity table. If we use the metadata, so we can use that sys.external tables, we can use the file formats of the data sources, and what we can do is we can actually query the metadata. What I'll do is I'll just hide the menu, and we can see for each table where it's located in the data lake. So I'm just going to expand the data source location. Okay, so we can see for our account table, it's in the account folder. The contact table is in contact, and it will be looking for anything with a CSV file extension. So any data with .csv in those folders, that's going to be read. That's where the table's data is. And actually, we can see that if I go back to data, go to the linked service, which is a connection to the data lake. Okay, let's have a look and see. We have. Let's just refresh that. There we go. So we've got our Dataverse sales trial container. And within that, we've got the folders that contain the data itself. Okay, so I'm going to open up contact, for example, and we'll see the CSV. So that is the file that will be read by the contact table. It won't read anything in the snapshot table. We'll look at that in another video. Okay, so when data is being synchronized, these CSV files will be written to, they'll be queryable via SQL in Synapse. And to do that, I'll go back to the Develop tab. I will open up a Dynamics query, and yep, I've got my database selected. I've got the Dataverse database, and now I can just run queries against the data that's basically in the data lake, that's being synchronized from Dynamics into the data lake. Now, it'll take a few seconds to start up the first query, because what Synapse will be doing is it'll be building some stats up behind the scenes about the data in the data lake. So we'll just let that run. Okay, so we've run the select on the contact table, and we've got our data back: the contact ID, name, job title, telephone, etc. So we can query the opportunity table as well. So I'll just run that. And we've got the opportunity data and all the columns that's in there. Okay, so now we can just query the data without fear of constraining anything in the Dynamics environment. It's completely disconnected because it's synchronized from Dynamics into the data lake, and all that metadata, the table names, the column names, has been synchronized as well. So we haven't had to set up any definitions. We can simply query the tables. So one last thing in the metadata that I'd like to look at, let me hide the menu again, is a table called target metadata. Really quite useful table. So I'm going to select from that table, and what it does is it shows you the table. So it shows you under the column of entity name account, the attribute, so the column within that table, and the table that it references. So for example, the account, column name modified by, references a table called system user. So you may want to bring in the system user table. Again, the account has an owning business unit attribute column, and that references a table called business unit with the business unit ID. So super useful to be able to look at the metadata associated with the table and see what it links to. So the last thing we'll do is we'll just go into Dynamics itself, we'll change something, we'll see that reflected within Synapse. So what we'll do is we'll have a look, we'll choose a contact, and we'll say Alex Baker. So Alex Baker is currently the cafeteria manager, and we're going to change that. So I'm going to go in to my contacts. There's Alex Baker, and let's load the data up. So cafeteria manager. So we're actually going to call. So Alex has now been promoted to cafeteria director. So I'm going to save that. I'll refresh the Dataverse. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll wait to see the synchronization status on the contact table and see if that's been pushed through into Synapse. Okay, so when we refresh, we can see that we've got the last synchronized 11:44. So from when we changed the data to when it was made available, it isn't exactly real time. So there are some there can be some differences in the amount of time that it takes to synchronize the data from Dynamics into Synapse Analytics. So it's well worth getting some timings on the data that you're synchronizing in your environment. So the last thing, if we have a little look at the data that's been synchronized. So we'll select from our customer table, and we can see that Alex Baker's job title has changed to Cafeteria Director. So that's a little overview of connecting Dynamics 365 to Synapse Analytics via the Synapse Link for Dataverse, where it's synchronizing, exporting data from Dynamics into Synapse Analytics itself. So in a future video, I'm going to dive a little bit more into the snapshot folder where data is stored, and also a couple of the other metadata tables that are exported as part of the Synapse Link process. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've learned something from it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, and any comments, please put them in the comments below. Thank you. Bye-bye.